Hey, discernment listeners, Love is Blind UK. Let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Keep in mind that everything I'm saying is completely speculative based on a limited edit. Let's watch.
But I was like,
Yeah, I'll be real with you. I was nervous meeting you. I did get told something. It got back to me that you kind of just went back to the lounge and you kind of were saying that, you know, you called it off with me.
Okay, so we're hearing where she heard it. I'm guessing from Freddie that when she came back to the pods that he said that he had broken it off with her, and at least in the edit, there was just that one statement where that rando said, "Did you break it off with someone?" And he said, "Yeah, but we're all good now." And of course, Freddie would be really tuned in on that because he wanted to be with Kat, and I believe Freddie, at least in the edit, didn't have any, Freddie only had Kat on his list. Sometimes we learn later on that there were other people that were on their list, but they just didn't show in the edit. But in terms of the edit, so Freddie would be very interested in that, right? And he hears, oh, he just broke up with her. That means I might have a chance with Kat. And so then, you know, they progress, and then in their conversations at some point it comes up and Freddie's like, yeah, I just remember when Ollie said that he had broken up with you, I was really, I was sad about maybe how you felt about it, but I was really happy for us. And then she's like, he didn't break up with me. Okay, so I think that's what we're hearing. I'm just speculating.
No.
I was a bit like, building myself up. I was like, I feel awful and what am I gonna say? I was trying to be so respectful because I wanted to keep the friendship, and then to hear I got told that he came back in the lounge and Ollie was just kind of like, yeah, I called it off a cat, it is what it is.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a guess and say that Freddie did not present it that way. The way that Freddie is not congruent with that. I doubt that Freddie was like, yeah, so Ollie came back and said, I called it off with Kat, it is what it is, whatever. I think that's the way that Kat is portraying that. So either Kat is exaggerating because she's doing it by choice, or that's how it felt to her, and because of her lack of differentiation, she will allow the feelings to infiltrate her memories. And she's like now telling Ollie that not only did you tell people that you broke up with me, but you said, yeah, I broke it off with Kat, whatever, no biggie. Because that certainly isn't, what happened. But let's rewind that.
I was trying to be so respectful because I wanted to keep the friendship, and then to hear I got told.
And then she says, I was wanting to be respectful because I wanted to keep the friendship. I think what she's saying is, I wanted to be friends with you and Demi, and when I went back to the lounge, I tried to be diplomatic in the way that I talked about our breakup. So to hear that you weren't diplomatic in that way bothers me. I think that's what she's saying.
That he came back in the lounge and Ollie was just kind of like, yeah, I called it off a cat, it is what it is.
Do you know what? I'm not gonna say, oh, that's definitely not true, because I can't actually remember exactly what I said when I came back.
That's interesting. Ollie is a smart, differentiated, contemplative person in this moment, because he's like, you see the look on his face like, wait, that's... But then he checks in with his memory and he's like, well, I don't exactly remember what I said. So he even says that. He's like, well, I can't remember exactly what I said, so I can't say I didn't say that. But I would imagine Ollie would be able to say, regardless of what I said, there's no way that I had that tone where I was like, it is what it is. That there's no way I would have had that tone, because when we broke it off, I felt a mixture of feelings. One, I felt sad and guilty, but I was also feeling elated because now I had the road set before me with Demi. But anyway, I thought I'd gone back and said that I was going to say that. I thought what?
Kind of like, yeah, I called it off a cat, it is what it is.
Do you know what? I'm not gonna say, oh, that's definitely not true, because I can't actually remember exactly what I said when I came back. I thought I'd gone back and said that I was gonna say that, and then you kind of beat me to it, and I was kind of like relieved that we were on the same page.
Right. Well, that isn't from the edit what Ollie did. He did not go back and say, well, I was going to break up with her, but then she broke up with me, or she made it mutual, and I was relieved about that. In the edit, that's not what we saw. But he might have said that, and they just edited it out.
100%.
If I did say that, I apologize, because that's not true. So if I accidentally mistold what happened, then yeah, I apologize, because that's not what happened.
Ollie?
That's great. We do not normally see that on this show. We see it occasionally, an individual not getting defensive and not being confrontational back, and he's just saying, yeah, that's not the way it was. I mean, I imagine that Ollie might be thinking, well, kind of was that way. In essence, I did break up with you. But in this moment, it doesn't serve anything. You know, he has an inner Freddy, if you will, saying, it doesn't really matter. So it's just a matter of pride. So just let it go and go along with what she's saying. So he's saying, I think, the diplomatic thing to her, and saying, yeah, you're right. It was a mutual thing, because it was closer to mutual in reality than I remember it being. So maybe you could say it was mostly in the mutual camp, but I don't know. It didn't look that way. It looked like Kat wasn't. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Actually, see you, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, when you put up, I was like, kind of what I expected you to like.
Really?
Yeah. What I mean?
Yeah, I'm just happy you're happy. It's just nice to know, like, you were there at the start and this is where we are. And the fact I can see you today, it's great. Like, I respect you a lot because of what...
So they're editing it to make it look like Demi is getting upset and that Ollie and Kat are flirting or something. We have Micah and Kwame to compare this to, and it does not compare. These are two people who had a pretty big connection in the pods just days earlier, who are just being polite and meeting each other in person for the first time. It doesn't look to be like they're flirting at this point.
Just don't chat shit about me.
Nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Nah, but you hear what I'm coming from.
I ain't got nothing bad to say about you. And to be fair, like, you being with Freddie, me being with Demi doesn't change the fact that we had a vibe.
So they edited that, and sometimes they edit it to tell the true story, because they have hours and hours of footage, and so they might have to edit things to tell the true story by manipulating the edit a little bit. But there was a very abrupt cut edit there, where he's like, we had a vibe, and then he was about to say something, and they edited it out. Did he say something like, we had a vibe, but now we have, our vibes with our respective people. With editing it like that, it makes it look like he is trying to rekindle or, trying to flirt.
Am I what you expected, looks-wise?
Yeah and no. I didn't think you had a beard, I'm not gonna lie.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is a beard a good thing or a bad thing?
Beard's a good thing,
cool.
But I didn't think you had one.
Okay.
What about me?
Yeah, and so it'd be totally normal for them to have this conversation and have it not be a threat and have it not be in the effort of reconnecting romantically with each other. They spent hours and hours in the pods talking and falling in like with each other. And now they're seeing each other for the first time. And it's just like, because they would have a vision in their mind about what the other person looked like, and to actually see them, it's a huge deal. So, it's an interesting conversation. It doesn't indicate. Now, maybe they end up flirting more or something. I don't know. But at this point, I don't see any alarming things. I wonder what Demi is going through, because it kind of looked like Kat just went over to Ollie and said, hey, let's talk. I wonder if Demi didn't expect that to happen and doesn't know, because if Ollie could have said, hey, I'm going to talk to Kat for a bit, but, there's no threat there. Because there's been some talk, Demi said something like, well, me and Kat, we have different sorts of bodies, and I just have to believe in our connection or something. I can't remember what she said. So there seems to be something on Demi's mind.
Now you're pretty much what I expected.
And then they edit it like that. It's just, it's disappointing because when I first fell in love with this show, I really had never watched reality television before Love is Blind season 1. And I was just one of those people that's just like, it's all fake or it's not for me or whatever. I mean, there were occasional shows like the first Real World season and, of course, the Seattle season I think I watched a little bit of. And then for some reason I watched Rock of Love season 2. I don't know why. But when I watched Love is Blind season 1, I was pleasantly surprised, and I thought, oh, maybe I wasn't giving reality TV a chance. But then I started watching other reality TV shows, and I learned, and I figured out, my own opinion, that the first few seasons of Love is Blind, they are actually trying to present something that's real, and the manipulative edits are fewer. And other reality shows, like particularly shows like 90 Day Fiancé, but particularly other kinds of shows that I don't watch. But 90 Day Fiancé has a lot more of these manipulative edits where it's like they can't help themselves but to Frankenstein a sentence together from 5 different instances. And it's so obvious when it's happening, and they're doing it here. There were several manipulative edits, and let's rewind.
I didn't think you had one.
Okay.
What about me?
Now you're pretty much what I expected.
So, what about me? And he says, you're pretty much what I expected. And then there's a sharp cut there. He says something after that. Maybe it's irrelevant, but I'm guessing it paints it in a different light. She gets a big smile. Maybe that was from a different moment. It could have been from the same moment. And who knows what that smile means. It could just be like, I'm nervous or something. And then they do that thing. Where, I mean, do we really think that she asked him, okay, what do you think about me? And he's like, you're pretty much what I, and I'm sure they wished they had something juicier other than you're pretty much what I expected, because that's not really a very salacious thing to say. Then they have the music come in, you know, the powerful music to say like something's afoot. And maybe something is, but I don't see it yet. And then, so we're supposed to believe that she said, what do you think of me? And then he says, you're pretty much what I expected. And then he's like either looking at her or looking away and licking his lips. They expect us to believe that that's the sequence of events. It's so stupid.
Okay.
What about me?
Now you're pretty much what I expected.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
No, it is a good thing.
Bad.
So he had a brief moment where he just looks away and like licks his lips. And then she says, hopefully that's, and he's like, yeah, that's a good thing. It's so dumb. It's like, there's a story here. It's interesting. It's interesting. There's tension here because they were in like with each other a few days earlier, and now they're with different people. There's enough that you don't have to manipulate it.
You're a very pretty girl.
Thank you. You're a good looking guy.
Nah, we're good.
Wanna hug it out?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so she says, you're a good looking guy, and we're supposed to think that they're attracted. He's going in, you know, should we hug it out? Okay. And yeah, maybe they're flirting. Maybe they are regretting their choices. But all I see are just manipulative edits. If anything, I'm assuming that they took the very best clips to tell their dumb story, which were very minimal, which makes me think that if we saw the whole interaction, it would have been completely innocuous. It's just my guess. But you would know because you've seen the future and I haven't.
You can get your girl back.
It's an interesting one with Catherine. I think in the pods, she had made her decision, I had made mine. But yeah, it was interesting seeing her for sure.
How was it?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the edit anyway, he's smiling in terms of the edit, and who knows what that means.
Yeah, it was good. All good, just clearing the air and that.
Yeah, good.
Needed.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was, but apparently it was.
I'm trying not to have things in my mind.
So he comes back, and I don't think he's intuiting what Demi was going through, or they didn't show it in the edit, but it would have been, I think, helpful to Demi if he came over and hugged her and said, by the way, you're my only girl. And there's no one that can interfere with that. It's just a little tip for everyone, particularly in the beginning of a relationship. It can't hurt to kind of throw that out there. But, it's not necessary per se. And then he says, clear the air. She's like, yeah, that's good, because I don't know if Demi knows what is going on. And then he's like, apparently it was necessary for him. I think he's commenting like, I don't understand why she needed to clear that up.
I don't want to overthink. That's all I ever do in life. I don't want to be like pressurizing it and be like, tell me.
Okay, interesting. She said a few things earlier. I don't know if I included it, where she's like, I don't want to be the jealous one. I don't want to come across like the jealous one. Then she says, I don't want to overthink it because I always do that. I don't want to be pressuring and be like, tell me. Yeah, but her demeanor is kind of shut down, which could feel hostile or distancing, or at the very least isn't telling Ollie what's going on. If I were a little birdie on his shoulder, I would say maybe that should be some fan art, like I'm a little birdie on your shoulder. But what she could do is say, hey, I don't want to be the jealous type. I don't want to come across as pressuring you or anything. And I swear that if you just tell me to back off, I will. But I'll tell you, I'm feeling a little threatened right now. And I just, not that there is a threat and you didn't do anything wrong, but I would love it if you could just reassure me that you love me and you want to be with me. Something like that. That she could say that. Or if she really wants to know what happened, she could be like, hey, I don't want to pry. You're certainly entitled to your privacy, but for obvious reasons, I'm a little curious about what you talked about with her. You don't have to tell me, and you're not in trouble, and I'm not going to jump down your throat if you tell me that you talked about things that might be in the direction of you revisiting your experiences in the pods, because that's totally normal to do. But I'm just curious, like, what was that about? I said that one weird. Sometimes when I will role play things, I'm like, that was weird. But presumably Demi would do that better. But what she's doing is she's kind of shutting down, which could confuse or hurt Ollie. But I don't know. Is something happening right now? Is Ollie rethinking things?
In his time, he will tell me. I'm hoping he does.
And then she says, in time, he will tell me. That's not a good approach. If she can let it go, if it's not that big of a deal to her, then okay. But that would be strange, one. Two, I don't think she's just going to let it go. So it's just going to cause her to be upset. It's going to cause suffering, at the very least, for her. But it might even cause her to come across as distancing or even hostile to Ollie until he says something. So just be honest. But I wonder if she has that dichotomy between, if I act on this need, it will cause a fight because of their reaction or the way I come across, so I have to avoid. Those aren't the only two options.
Everything good?
Yeah, he's admitted it for lying, and he says,
Oh, good. There you go. Move past it. There you go. Done.
He admitted it, that he was lying. I mean, yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it, but that's pretty extreme. That's not a diplomatic thing, and it's certainly not in line with what she was saying earlier, that she wants to take the high road, or she wants to be the diplomatic one. Yeah, he admitted it. He was lying straight up. I've established that. That's certainly not a summary of that conversation. The summary would be that I told him that I didn't appreciate that he framed it as him breaking up with me because it was more mutual. And he said he didn't really remember what he said, and he agreed that that isn't an accurate representation. But he also said, which wasn't in the edit, that he thought he did present it to the lounge as being a more mutual thing. So he didn't admit to lying. He didn't remember what he said, which is normal. So now she is, but I think she is, this is a good question for a jumping off point. When we see stuff like this, and I don't know how people see this, but I think there's a percentage of the audience that might see this as manipulative behavior on her part, or self-aggrandizing or something. And the first assumption, and typically this is the only assumption that people have, is that it's volitional, that people are making a choice to lie because they're going, ha ha ha, I'm going to lie to make myself look better. It's a volitional choice. But more often than not, it's not a volitional choice in that way, in that everything that we experience is filtered through our emotions and our lens and our experiences and our schemas. And then even as the memories are being encoded, they're filtered through a bunch of defenses and distortions. We do not see reality objectively in any way, shape, or form. Emotionally, physically, I see a table in front of me right now, but everything that I'm seeing right now in my brain, perceiving, is being filtered through my experience with table and with color and with gravity. It's not exactly the thing that I'm seeing. I'm seeing like my brain is making a representation. You get my point. And also emotionally, particularly emotionally. So it's possible in this moment that you hook her up to a lie detector test and she would pass. That yes, it's true. He did admit to just lying to me or to lying to everybody, because she needs it to be that way. She really depends on having those narratives in her mind to get through moments like this. That's more likely than her just saying, ha ha ha, I'm going to lie. But, it could be either, it could be another conceptualization as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Guys have a tendency to do that when they're trying to protect their own
And they're
egos,
prideful,
right? And
yeah.
pride.
100%.
So while it wasn't the right thing to do, you can understand why it did
Why?
it. But
Yeah.
I know, we've just like, it's worked out for the best.
Exactly.
I literally was like, I couldn't be happier with Freddie, and I was like, treat Demi well. And
That's it. That's all you can hope for.
It's interesting, again, from the edit, it's not exactly what happened. The way she's presenting it is that she confronted a jerk face and she was very clear that she is more than happy with Freddie, and you need to know that you did something wrong. If I just heard her side, that's what I would think happened. That's not what happened, right? And then we see the way Ollie responds. What he would say, and what he said was, well, she wanted to clear something up, and apparently it was important to her. I don't really understand why it was that important, but it was important to her, so okay. So that is more in line with what we saw. What she's saying is definitely a spin, right? All right, well, let's adjourn there. I want to remind everyone that there is a Psychology in Seattle subreddit, and there are a lot of really great conversations going on there. Sometimes I wonder if people know. I use Reddit every day. I love Reddit, but not everyone does. But if you do use Reddit, feel free to follow or join that subreddit or participate in the conversations if you want to. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.